What's up, guys? Here with you, FC Wonderkid, episode 126, here with my guy, Brenton. How are you?
I am amazing. I mean, episode 126, it's amazing we've made it this long here, but at the same time, it's amazing we made it through a ridiculously action-packed week of football where, let's see, Olivier Giroud is the most talked about goalkeeper on the planet. We've got, I don't know, Americans doing wonderful things, which makes my heart very happy, and we'll talk about later. We've got Arsenal finally beating Manchester City, which we'll talk about in extent very shortly. And on top of that, we now have to head into an international break for 2 weeks. No, I'm just kidding. There's so much to talk about. We're going to talk about Spurs. We're going to talk about all the unbeaten teams in the Eredivisie. Alex, I don't think we have enough time, but we're going to make enough time because this is amazing stuff that we need to get to. But how are you?
I'm doing really well, and you said it. Arsenal, Man City, it's delivered. And don't forget to comment in episode 126 topics you want to see and react to everything we're talking about, like Bretton mentioned, with Arsenal, with La Liga, with European football, everything, okay? We'll answer every comment on YouTube down below. But yes, Arsenal beat Man City. Arteta has finally broke the 12-game winless streak against Man City. And Arteta breaks it, and it's the first time in 5 years that Man City suffer back-to-back losses in the Premier League. Okay, so Arsenal are doing not the impossible, what is feasible after that Community Shield win too. This is giving hope to that team, and a team that didn't have Bukayo Saka. Bukayo Saka didn't start against Man City, and that just shows the results, the unity, and even that Bukayo Saka didn't start against Arsenal. Martinelli came on the second half, and they still beat Man City at home. That shows great commitment and great results from our team that is playing Arteta ball. And my biggest highlight is William Saliba is one of the best center backs in the world. Masterclass against Man City. 100% of his duels were won, and his passes, the accuracy, he gives guarantees and safety to that defense. World-class center back.
And I'll expand that, Alex. I mean, Declan Rice, I think, won the midfield for the most part for Arsenal. As good as I thought Rico Lewis and Kovacic was dangerously close to a red, they did what they could.
Should have.
Probably should have been. I mean, they were both open-footed, or what do you call it? You know, studs-up tackles. But when it comes down to it, they did the job for the majority of the game because that was the biggest worry for Manchester City fans heading into this, which was the suspension of Rodri, right? And I thought they did fairly well, but I still thought, I'm going to expand it beyond Saliba. I thought it was Declan Rice. I thought it was Saliba. I thought it was Gabriel. And, you know, hell, Ben White had a hell of a game too. Tomiyasu, I'll throw him. Zinchenko and Tomiyasu, fine. But no, that center back duo and that spine with Declan Rice, I thought did very, very well. But when it comes down to it, where was Erling Haaland?
Yes, where was Erling Haaland? Good, very good point. And I think Julian Alvarez still showed more threats in that game than Erling Haaland. And Erling Haaland in his last 4 games, 0 goals suffered. And it's worrying times without Rodri, without Kevin De Bruyne. But Man City are still favorites to win the Premier League, people, despite this loss. When it comes to February, March, they're locked in. Champions League mode, or Champions mode is locked in their minds. And Arsenal have beaten Man City, their first win against this team in the Premier League since 2015. And this happens too with a player like Martin Odegaard that adds so much quality, control of the game. Technique is unreal, and he's a pure maestro. One of the best players I've seen for Arsenal this last decade. It's because of a player like him that they beat Man City. Great results. And we're living a new time, you were saying. An alternative reality in this sense. Arsenal are unbeaten. Tottenham are unbeaten. Man City are back-to-back losses in the Premier League. It's looking so interesting. A London team could win the Premier League. And if that happens, it's absolutely bonkers. With Arsenal being favorites of the London teams. Man City's favorites still in the Prem.
And to piggyback on your video release earlier this week, I believe Arteta has finally completed his bingo card, right?
24.
He has finally got it done, right? Beaten Manchester City in a competitive Premier League game. Community Shield does not necessarily count, but he completes it, and that's a big deal. Is it a monkey off his back, or is Arsenal going to just fly on from here and become a more dominant team in some respects? Those questions still are unanswered because let's be honest. I mean, this was a far more defensive affair than I think probably either of us were expecting, right? I thought it'd be a whole lot more open than this. No?
Look, I don't understand that point, being honest.
No?
Because imagine, I think like Arsenal came reluctant without Saka, okay? Sure. And Man City came reluctant without Rodri and De Bruyne.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I was more surprised that when Arsenal scored, there was no reaction from Man City. That's what I was surprised. Okay, because you would expect a reaction from a team that suffers the goal. So I think Arsenal controlled the game well, in my point of view.
Right. Well, no, I think we just said the same thing in different ways. Yeah. I thought I agree. Both sides were definitely far more conservative because they were both missing pretty big exclusions, if you will, from this match. And I think it was probably... I don't know. But the 12th man was huge in this one. Odegaard getting them fired up. It was great to see the shrewd signing from Ituano. Martinelli actually getting the goal. And, we got to be careful with this. Just like anything else we bring up with episode 126, because we're going to say some pretty crazy things to go with that alternative reality vibe from here on out. But it is still early stages. And, the double front or triple fronts that some of these teams have to make will take their toll as the season goes on. But you know what, Arsenal fans? 3 points. You can savor it. And I think you got to get ready for what? Chelsea next? Is that who it is? Coming down the pike?
It's Chelsea next weekend. Yes, there's going to be a Chelsea Arsenal. That's an interesting one. And I just want to say with the Kovacic challenge, I think the Kovacic challenge was wrongly judged. I think it was a red card, especially if you consider that Curtis Jones, a couple of weeks back, he got that red card, right? Last week. So from a challenge that is quite similar. But rest assured, put down below, people, your comments and we will answer them, okay, down below in the podcast on YouTube. Thank you for listening until now. And next topic is, we said Arsenal are unbeaten. But right now, the leaders of the Premier League are Tottenham. Unbeaten, 6 games, 2 draws. They've faced Arsenal already. And both teams are looking magnificent. I gotta give a shout out to Mickey van de Ven, Vicario, Udogi. The defense of Tottenham is elite. Pedro Porro didn't get called up for Spain. That is bollocks. It's crazy that has happened, but Udogi did. Okay, first call up for the Azzurri, for Destiny. Udogi completely deserves that to happen. I gotta say, Tottenham, unreal with 10 man. Still beat Luton.
And it is officially the best start ever. Ever. In Spurs history, okay? So Ange Postecoglou has got it done, has got it going. We'll see what happens when they get punched in the gut or punched in the mouth. But, they won versus Luton Town. They got it done. Mickey van de Ven did it on both sides of the ball, right? Scoring the goal and also playing very, very solid defense. But listen, I still think, and I don't even think it is controversial to say, but James Maddison is the best signing of the season, the Premier League offseason so far. There is no doubt in my mind, okay? 2 goals, 5 assists. They were down a man, and Maddison is the one that did that touchline, nice little, fireworks, and then centered it back to get that goal.
It's
right?
between him and James Ward-Prowse.
It is. But because Spurs are higher in the table, I'm going to give it to Maddison because on top of that, listen, he's only behind Mo Salah and Erling Haaland in goal involvements in the Premier League at the moment, and he played for a relegated squad last season. You can make the argument Leicester City is good enough not to get relegated. Even right now, they are top of the championship table. But he's also top of the Premier League in chances created. And we know he's got a little bit of an injury history, but for right now, give it up because James Maddison is the soul. He is the soul of this Spurs team next to Son. next to Son.
Ah.
And it is wonderful. It is just great, great, great to see. And I agree with you. I'm going to say a really close second is James Ward-Prowse, but Big Ange has them feeling something different. They always felt like they were going to get it done. Even a man down, you could feel that Spurs were going to find a way, and they did. They, in the end, did. But Cuti Romero and Van de Ven, okay, are we in agreement that maybe by the end of this season, they could wind up being top 2? I don't want to put him in front of Diaz and Diaz and Gvardiol or whoever's back there. I don't want to put him in front of that City center back duo. I think they're going to be fighting for top 3 center back partnership in the Premier League. But right now, Cuti Romero, I have to agree, is one of the best center defenders on the planet.
I say Cuti Romero, Saliba, Ruben Dias. I think they're in the top 5, and they're all in the Premier League defenders in the world. I think those 3 are solid in that talk. I think Jules Koundé and Ronald Araújo right now in form. Koundé. Definitely. Jules Koundé, for me, Bretson, right now, he's so in form for Barca. Like, Barca didn't suffer against Porto because of a Koundé tackle on Pepe. That was really close. Unreal form by him. And I think he's the best center back for Barca this season. But yeah, it's interesting how you're mentioning both. Because, yes, Mickey Van de Ven's balling, but Romero, with that experience, he's balling out too. And Tottenham are having their best start ever with Harry Kane leaving, their biggest legend ever, and Captain Son. Prime Son is going to be this season without Harry Kane. I completely believe he's going to embrace the responsibility and have an historic season. You can feel it. And he extended with Tottenham. He made the decision and the commitment to stay at this club. So Heung-min Son, when he leaves Tottenham one day, that I don't know, he might be not one club only, because he was previously at Leverkusen, Hamburg, but in the Premier League, Son might just represent Tottenham, and that deserves respect. Like, some players in Son's position would have gone to a Man City, would have gone maybe to a Real. Son said, no, I believe in this project, I love this city, I love this club, and I want to be a legend. And I respect Son for that. I respect Son for that. You were the man who would say every season, 20 goals from Son. And it was only last season he didn't do it. 20 goal involvements, exactly.
The moment I brought attention to it, Alex, the moment I brought attention to it, he doesn't do it. And Spurs has that tough season. But you're absolutely right. It just feels like something's different. And you know, the Spurs faithful, the stadium just being, it really now feels for the most part, like they have made their, I know they played at Luton Town. What is it? Kenilworth Road, right? But when they're at Spurs Stadium, I mean, it really does feel like they're home again. I'm not going to say it's like White Hart Lane, you know, with that intimacy and you're like right on top of the field, one of the very few ones that I was at before it is no longer. But my goodness, have they kind of moved into that upper echelon of being a absolute juggernaut commercially, as well as seems like being a team that people that are fair weather Premier League fans can actually get behind moving forward, in spite. And I do want to say this because we say it a lot with other teams, in spite of what is deemed relatively ineffective, and that's probably putting it nicely, ownership, right, in Daniel Levy. So, you know, you got to give it to him. Whether or not this lasts, who the heck knows? Because I think they were first in the table in August 2022 when the season flipping started. But when it comes down to it, Spurs has got a team that is actually fun to watch. I'm enjoying watching Spurs games, which it's been a little.
I think in my life, I think this is one of the best Spurs team I've ever seen in my life. I remember an era with Bale. Bale would always be a threat every game, literally. But no, right now I think Modric, yes, but he didn't have this level of a team. I'd say maybe.
No, I agree.
But Pochettino with that Champions League final too, having like a Lucas Moura. Look, there's been special teams in the last decade, and for a Spurs fan, these last 2 decades with Daniel Levy, I do. I'll be honest. I'll say it. I do not hate, but I do have harsh words a lot with Daniel Levy because sometimes I do feel like things should be done differently. But this decision of Ange Postecoglou, I can only give praise. The decision of maybe Harry Kane coming back and having that that clause that nobody knew until that interview he did shortly. I think, look, let's see. Let's wait and see. But let us know your thoughts about Tottenham down below, okay? Can Tottenham remain in this top 3? Let us know. But we're talking here about London teams, Arsenal, Tottenham, 4-1 Chelsea win. 4-1 Chelsea win. Chelsea are back, people. No, I'm not going to go crazy on it. But what I got to go crazy, y'all, Chelsea is finally starting Cole Palmer. Enzo Caicedo with Cole Palmer in front of them is just looking much better. Conor Gallagher, captain. Okay, I'm not going to say he's the best player for that position because he ain't. And Cuckoo come back fast. But Cole Palmer being there, it shows good signs and a better team. And creativity-wise, Cole Palmer being there improves Sterling, improves Enzo, improves a striker like Broja or Nico Jackson. So Cole Palmer is a must start for Chelsea. 1 goal and 1 assist against Burnley, and no surprise that he's balling out if you know the talent.
Yeah, and to just put, straight statistics next to his name, 3 straight starts for Cole Palmer, 3 straight wins. I'm pretty sure that's not, it's not a coincidence per se. I mean, he's direct. He's exactly what you want to be, and you saw it in his cameo appearance, in his sub appearances previously, that he was the one that would go straight for the jugular, and you have to go for the jugular against a team like Burnley. We should probably say all the promoted teams are having a tough start to life in the Premier League, but Burnley, and Vincent Kompany getting beaten up in his first season in the Premier League. But listen, there's a lot of elephants off the back, or elephants out of the room, ushered out of the room for Chelsea. They have led a lot of their games, if not all of their games in the Premier League, by XG. Their analytics. They have created chances. Their biggest issue was what? Putting them away, right? Nicholas Jackson has 9 big chances missed. Who I think is either only behind or is tied with Erling Haaland in the Premier League. But still, those are chances created. They're still big chances that just need that tap home. And guess what? Not only did you have Mykhailo Mudryk score his first goal, you also had Nicholas Jackson get on the scoreboard again. You also had Pochettino starting to get a little bit smarter with his setup, putting Cole Palmer in there from the get-go. And yeah, these are teams that Chelsea should beat. But when it comes down to it, you still got to go out and beat them, and that's exactly what has happened. So the win against Fulham, I think I was more impressed with. But this win against Burnley was one of the ones where you could see maybe they're starting to gel. And you're right. If that was the first time I think we looked at the Caicedo, Enzo partnership, maybe we wouldn't call it that just yet, but them being on the same field together and said, wow, this is a very, very big net positive for the team. And I am here for it as long as it may continue. It was good. It was good to see.
You can call it partnership already. Enzo and Caicedo.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. Arsenal's next, though. So that's going to be a big, big, big test.
And Rook, I think so. I think it's a big, obviously it's a big test completely. But I start to see good signs with Enzo and Caicedo. It's not just how they're playing on the field, but how they see each other. If you see the moment where there's like a goal celebration between them two, that they immediately go and hug each other. There's kind of we're here for each other. And that's what Enzo and Caicedo need to feel. And there's a responsibility, a sense of Chelsea is bigger than anything we've been a part. We're a part of a big team. We're starting in a lineup of a team that's supposed to be in the Champions League. We gotta deliver. And that's the sort of feeling I'm starting to get. Even a Sterling. Okay. Even a player like Sterling, Sterling must be one of the most well-paid players of the Chelsea team. So no surprise, he's doing what he's got to do. He's scoring goals, he's being a constant threat, and he's being one of the best players on the pitch. He has to do exactly that. So what my point of view is, good signs, so now is momentum. Even if they lose against Arsenal, I still believe that they can have momentum because there's no European competitions. And that can be something that they can work hard towards. Because more prep time, more time with each other, less time to travel, they can improve a lot this season with fundamentals. But yes, people, let us know down below what you're thinking about Chelsea. And now with United. United is this win, the boost win that's going to change everything. What I got to say is Scott McTominay is the first player in Man United history to score 2 goals in stoppage time, 2 key goals that got Man United a win. So, like, one thing I gotta say with McTominay, he's got passion towards Man United. He plays with his heart on his sleeve, and that's what you need. Even if he's on the bench, a player like McTominay adds value. Just like I see like Phil Jones now coaching the academy players, I wouldn't be surprised if one day McTominay had those aspirations too, and you gotta love that. But please, give Garnacho more time. Rashford is not enough. Rasmus Winter-Højlund, more time. But definitely Garnacho, okay? He must start more games. I gotta say that.
But I am going to take... I mean, Scott McTominay has been much maligned, I believe. I almost disrespected. I wouldn't say that he's been up there with Harry Maguire, but, you know, Scott McTominay is basically seen as a very limited footballer. And then you look at what he does in the European qualifiers, right? He's got 6 goals. He's leading Euro qualifying. He's basically the Scottish Messi at this moment in time. They're 5 wins in 5. They've already beaten Spain. They are going to play. He's going to need to be Scottish Messi again because they will play Spain again on Thursday, I believe, in a big one. And this one is in Spain. So this is in Seville. But listen, McTominay, I am 100% there. I mean, that is the ethos that you want within this team because he does. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He bleeds red. And when it comes down to it, you need a couple of those guys on the field mixed in with the very talented footballers you have as well. But you could just feel that was going to happen. Didn't he had one called back previous to that, if I'm not mistaken? Right, previous to then scoring 2, and you can like take pot shots against this guy, but that's the guy that could have possibly just did jumpstart your actual season. He might have just jumpstarted your actual season. Now, I think it was a little bit of a cop-out because I don't think Manchester United played well enough to win. But when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter if you've got somebody like that on the pitch. And that is exactly what Ten Hag needed. And that is exactly what all of Manchester United needed because they had lost 2 in a row at Old Trafford and things were getting pretty damn bleak. So I don't know. But what do you learn from that? Right? Like what, as a United supporter, I would love to know in the comments, what did you just learn from that win? Aside from the fact that be nicer to McTominay.
You need a center back.
I don't know.
That's what you've learned from that game. Even though Maguire had an assist, okay, which was phenomenal. That's what I got to say. A center back is much needed on this team. Stability at the back. Okay. Onana every week. I don't want to say Onana every week as a stinker, but Onana every week is exposed because of the lack of quality in front of him, in my view, okay? Varane ain't there balling out. Lisandro Martinez ain't there balling out like he did last season. They need a center back badly in my point of view. But I got to say a boost on Rasmus Winter-Højlund. Rasmus Winter-Højlund has 3 goals scored in the Champions League. He's an absolute gem, okay? He's showing the results. And if it wasn't for injuries, I am absolutely sure he would be more involved with this team in goals. And that's what they need long-term Man United. Don't be surprised if Rasmus Winter-Højlund has like more than 20 goals scored in all competitions this season. I fully believe that can happen. And Amrabat played a good game too against Brentford. I think Amrabat was a good impact in this team. And yes, Galatasaray, I want to give a shout out to them with that win against Man United. Huge. Galatasaray are still unbeaten in all competitions. Galatasaray had their first win ever against an English team with players like Icardi. Sacha Boey, what a game from him at right back. And to Wilfried Zaha scoring in the theater of dreams. It's absolutely
You knew it was going to happen. I'm pretty sure I said it was going to happen. Did I not say it was going to happen? No, but I love the shout out you had there with Sacha Boey because I believe he was actually on a short list of probably Arsenal's, if I remember correctly. And he is, he's very, very talented. Also Stade Rennais, I believe. I could be wrong about that, but I think he was Stade Rennais as well back in the day. But listen, Manchester United, moving forward, they actually have 2 games that can give them a real clear, like, are we ready to turn this momentum into something? Are we ready to turn this two wonder strikes in injury time, courtesy of a guy that we helped develop? Are we ready to turn it into something? Because they've got Sheffield United away, and they've got Copenhagen, I believe. And then they have Manchester City. Then you've got the Manchester Derby at the end of this month, and that should be obviously the most local date, the nearest date that's circled for them, because they need to build up almost an arrogance before that game, because if they don't build up self-belief, confidence, all that stuff that's going to be needed, we could be in for a tough going. Now it's going to be City without De Bruyne, which is a little less scary, but it's still pretty damn scary, especially given relatively recent history. So we'll see what happens, man. But hey, a win is a win, and I love McTominay doing that. That was phenomenal.
About Sacha Boey, I want to confirm what you said. It is Stade Rennes, Sacha Boey, and Sacha Boey joined Galatasaray in 2021 for 1 million only. 1 million only. They're going to sell him for like 30 to 40. So that's going to be 40x. Still 23 years old and French international too. So that's a huge market. And at right back, he can be one day a player that can play for France. That's an interesting mention. And on the Premier League side, I just wanted to mention too, Liverpool with a 2-2 game against Brighton. Like Liverpool, as it seems, Klopp, as it seems, can't beat De Zerbi, okay? Klopp has played De Zerbi. No, De Zerbi in the last 4 times he played Klopp, he's never lost to Klopp, okay? Klopp isn't figuring out Roberto De Zerbi, but to be said, De Zerbi is one of the best managers in the Premier League, definitely in terms of tactics, preparing against another team, okay? It didn't work out with Aston Villa, but it did with Liverpool.
Well, Mo Salah, I think, deserves a whole lot of respect in that game, right? While it's always wonderful seeing what De Zerbi's doing. Obviously, if Mo Salah's given a chance, he's putting it away. And kind of sneakily, once again, Mo Salah has, I think, 9 goal involvements in his first 8 games. I think it's like 5 goals, 4 assists in the Premier League. So there he is, like clockwork. And it's just amazing. Now, that game was pretty much all about taking too many chances in the back. Right? Those first 2 goals. Alexis McAllister was stripped after bad distribution. And Simon Adingra, the latest of Brighton's wonderful recruitment, comes in and scores his 2nd Premier League goal in just his 3rd Premier League start, to go with 1 assist. And there it is again. You've got Brighton out-scouting, possibly out-coaching in some respects, pretty much every other team out there. But Brighton needed that point. Coming off of that big loss to Aston Villa. And I believe, did they lose again in midweek, or did they win?
They didn't
True.
They didn't win.
Okay.
Right now, they
didn't win.
They're not looking good in European competitions right now, Brighton.
No.
But there still needs to work on other fronts. That always happens to teams that are in new experiences, like Brighton is in European competitions. But you said it.
Absolutely.
Salah has 5 goals. Mo Salah, Egyptian King, has 5 goals, 4 assists in his last 8 Premier League games. He's definitely, if not like the top 2 right wingers in the world in form right now. In my view, he's the top 5 player in the world right now in form. Top 5 player for what he's doing. If Salah wasn't there for Liverpool, Liverpool wouldn't be doing as good of a season as they're doing. It's Alisson and Mo Salah, the world-class players balling out consistently for Liverpool these past 3 years. Hopefully Virgil van Dijk will have a big season this one. He's looking good, at least from the start of the season. And Darwin. Darwin in the Premier League has 7 games, only 3 starts, 45 minutes played per game. That is very short for a player that was spent 70 million for him. And he's got 3 goals scored and 2 assists. So he's been involved. I expect more of Darwin Núñez, especially because I said he was going to be one of the top goal scorers in the Premier League this season. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I mean, the way Klopp is using him, I think you might wind up being wrong here, but for the right reasons. And who knows? Yeah, he's got a big World Cup qualifier coming up too. I think Uruguay's got Colombia this Thursday. So that's a huge one. But listen, I'm going to actually give that assist. If I can call up Opta or call up Premier League, I'm going to not give the assist to Darwin. I'm actually going to give that assist to Harvey Elliott, because Harvey Elliott could have taken a weirdly angled shot in this game. And instead he faked it. He dummied it. And Mo Salah was there to just calmly put it right by Verbruggen. So good on Harvey Elliott, and it's nice seeing him have an impact, albeit even if he didn't touch the ball, and it was all because he dummied it. But that's good IQ, right? Is it not? But back to Brighton really quickly, because you make a very, very good point about that two fronts, right? It was always going to be tough, and I think the Serie has said as much. And that's why you saw, Baleba getting a start in this Premier League game, because midweek, you had Gilmore, you had, a lot of these guys are going to be tired. They're going to be dealing with a whole lot. So this type of a speed bump is to be expected, even if it is against opponents that you would expect for them to beat on paper. So maybe they'll rev it up and they can, rattle off 3 wins to actually get out of the group. But I'm not worried about the Brighton experiment just because they've done not so well in their first 2 games in Europe. And I'm pretty confident the Serbia is confident too.
Well, they lost Cup 3-2 at home. I don't know. It could be a tough experience for them going forward in European competitions. But
yeah,
a team that definitely goes against this point in argument is Newcastle. Newcastle are back in the Champions League after 20 years without it. And they beat impressively PSG. Mbappe went to St. James Park, but he got defeated by Newcastle big time. And you got to respect the 12th man impact of St. James Park, the Geordie fans. Got to respect that. That is a Premier League team in the making to win a Prem. You can see it. And it's because of the tough team to play at home. That's not good. St. James Park isn't going to be an easy team to beat for a Man City, for an Arsenal, and it wasn't for a PSG. So until the final of the Champions League, if they're in a semi, in a quarter, in the future with a better team, it will always be an important factor. Something like Anfield. Anfield is definitely a big variable for wins for Liverpool in the Champions League. St. James Park can be that for Newcastle. You saw it in full display against PSG. Bruno Guimarães, like Dan Burn with a masterclass. It's unbelievable to see. And Alexander Isak is one of the best young strikers in the world right now. Swedish talent with 6 Premier League goals scored. Only Erling Haaland has more goals scored than Alexander Isak. So pay attention to this striker in Newcastle. Isak.
I agree, yeah. And if you didn't say it already, he's got 6 Premier League goals and 6 Premier League starts, only behind Haaland. But more impressive was... Yeah, you did just say it. Okay, my brain turned off for a second because I was thinking what I was looking at right here was the actual starting 11 for Newcastle versus PSG. Because if you said, I don't know, even 12 months ago, that a team with the defense of Kieran Trippier, Jamal Lascelles, Fabian Schär, Dan Burn, and Nick Pope behind him was going to beat PSG 4-1 at St. James Park. I would have probably taken the other side so hard, the other bet so hard that was not going to happen. It's amazing to me that we're now looking at this collection of defense and saying it still is one of the better defenses in the league, even if they did have that rocky 3-game loss, or what was it? 3 losses in a row in the Premier League, right? These guys know how to defend when they absolutely need to. And on top of that, you've got another breakout star that's kind of coming out here that has been at Newcastle for a very long time, and that's Sean Longstaff scoring that goal against PSG. Dan Burn and Sean Longstaff scored Champions League goals, and I'm not trying to belittle them in any way, shape, or form. But again, that's another thing that my brain cannot comprehend it. And it was a very comprehensive win. It was a very comprehensive, organization around making sure that you limited Kylian Mbappe as much as possible. And on top of that, they kept Donnarumma always guessing and even making mistakes at times. And it was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to see. So yes, 12th man gets it. Eddie Howe gets a massive, massive boost from this because I think they're on a 7-game unbeaten streak right now after that 3-game loss streak.
Exactly.
So congratulations to Newcastle. I think it's going to continue because there's something else. Isak didn't score midweek, but he scores 2 goals on the weekend. And if they can continue that give and take, Newcastle's going to be really, really, they're going to shoot up the table.
They didn't lose to West Ham, a tough team to go against. And Newcastle's showing great results. And you said it, even like a couple of weeks back, they scored 8 goals against Sheffield. the first time ever in Premier League history that 8 different people scored in a game. 8 different people of the same team. That happened with this Newcastle team. So the amount of talent, the amount of roles that they know. You know, that's the thing with Newcastle that I think. Everybody knows the role that they have to play. I think Eddie Howe is very transparent in his philosophy with his team and highly efficient with his training sessions. You can see he's a prepper. Eddie Howe is a prepper, and this team was ready for PSG. And my biggest shout-out, my last shout-out on Prem is Trippier. Kieran Trippier is the leader of this historic Newcastle team that is in the Champions League after 20 years. I fully believe Trippier, when he retires one day, he'll be seen as one of the best English fullbacks in the Premier League. I have that. I have that belief because he's representing the beginning of a new era with Newcastle. And he was important for Tottenham. He took the risk to go to Atletico, and he was still being selected from Southgate, even though he wasn't playing in England. So big respect towards Kieran Trippier.
And I believe he is co-top of the league with 5 assists in the Premier League. He's up there too, probably second in chances created. But I don't think this is controversial to say. Kieran Trippier has been consistently the most influential player for Newcastle since the ownership took over, right? Consistently one of the best players in the Premier League, and I think it is tied back to the fact that he does understand his role, and he plays that role so incredibly well in Eddie Howe's system that it just works really perfectly for him. And I do wonder, I mean, if he never left for Atleti, right? I wonder if he'd be an even better player or he'd be worse off because of it. I think that testing out, getting outside your zone, getting some influence from La Liga, from other opponents, right? Maybe gave him that push because he's 33. He's not exactly like a spring chicken here. So he's seen a few things and he's come back. And I mean, I'm just so impressed with how he runs or helps run that defensive and offensive setup for Newcastle. So good on you. And at the same time, I got to throw a shout out to West Ham because you mentioned it. Second best, in my opinion, a very close second. Best signing of the season so far has definitely been James Ward-Prowse, who I'm pretty sure has like a goal involvement in every game but one for West Ham since he has joined. And on top of that, we saw Kudus score a goal. And, it might not have been the most special thing or anything, but he is going to score some very special goals for West Ham moving forward. And that's a team that's going to be a lot of fun to watch in the Europa League as well. So that was a fun game to watch, that 2-2.
Yeah, 2-2. I completely agree with Kudus. That was a great substitution. And James Ward-Prowse that, yes, James Ward-Prowse 100% should have been called up by Southgate. It's embarrassing that Southgate didn't call up a player that is perfect to play in his system. That is why it's so damn annoying not to see James Ward-Prowse in the selection, but that has happened. But we're talking about players testing themselves in the past. Jude Bellingham is the real-life test of an Englishman conquering the world. Jude Bellingham right now is one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world. In his last 10 games, he's got 7. Jude Bellingham in his last 10 games, he's got 10 goals scored, 3 assists, and he was the man of the match in 7 of those 10 games. It's absolutely mad that he's the best player of Real Madrid and a Ballon d'Or contender in his first 2 months in the club. Unreal to see this. Unreal.
Yeah. He's won both Player of the Months for La Liga. He had a goal and assist midweek versus Napoli. He had a goal and assist last week versus Girona, who was at that time number 1 in La Liga or close to number 1 in La Liga. And then he follows it up with 2 goals versus Osasuna. But the craziest thing, I mean, this is actually the highest form of respect I'm starting to realize. When X or Twitter followers start putting tap in front of your name, tap in Jude, whatever, what do they call, tap in Ronaldo, whatever. I'm making a Pinaldo and all that stuff, right? when they start doing that, it's actually the sincerest form of respect. It means you have made it, because everyone wanted to paint Jude as being overrated, and that the majority of his goals were tap-ins, just tap-ins for Real Madrid. This is a 20-year-old Englishman doing this for one of the most respected brands and football clubs and most successful football clubs of all time. And he has 10 goals in 10 games. He's matching Cristiano Ronaldo's start to life. And on top of that, you want to know what most people on the field with him want to say about him? They're more impressed with his commitment to defense, his commitment to the press, his commitment to his teammates. I mean, I don't know how much more you can express. Jude Bellingham has been an absolute star, consummate professional everywhere he goes. And the cynics out there probably want to go, okay, well, what's the secret? What's going to happen? Something's going to come down the pike. He's going to lose that confidence. I don't think so, man. Jude Bellingham has already made himself literally the most important player, maybe next to Vinny, the most important player for Real Madrid and for Carlo Ancelotti. Carlo Ancelotti has a free role in Real Madrid's setup for Jude Bellingham at 20 years old. Gives him the freedom to run. And that it's mind-blowing. It really is. It's mind-blowing. And he is going to be different. So I just love it. I love it. And, Fede Valverde deserves some love too. Because he, I believe, leads the top 5 leagues in chances created in open play, and nobody's basically talked about Valverde at all this season.
Don't worry. We're here to talk. We're here to talk about Valverde. I agree with you that he deserves a lot of respect. But going with what you said briefly, Cristiano Ronaldo in his first 10 games for Real Madrid, he got 10 goals and 1 assist. Jude Bellingham playing in midfield has 10 goals and 3 assists. So yes, critics can say he's doing better than Cristiano Ronaldo did in his first 10 games for Real Madrid. And that's absolutely bonkers. He's definitely elevated himself towards being a Galactico. And Jude Bellingham is clearly chasing greatness at Real Madrid. He's learning from Modric. He's learning from Kroos. I believe next season there's not going to be maybe Modric and Kroos, but maybe there will be Kylian Mbappe. And with Bellingham playing like this, with Kylian Mbappe, Real Madrid are Champions League favorites in my view. It has to be the case. They are looking so scary. And clean sheets too. This is what I got to say. Real Madrid has one of the best midfields in the world. Not just because they have Jude Bellingham, obviously is the biggest argument. But they have one of the best midfields because they have an adaptive midfield. Camavinga can play left back. Valverde can play at the wing. Tchouaméni can play at center back like we saw at Osasuna. Adaptability that shows quality in all the midfielders for Real Madrid. So pay big attention to how good they play these players and how good they train them. Because to play 2 positions, you need to have a high IQ. You need to have a lot of prep, a lot of video prep, a lot of knowing where to be at the right time. And for Camavinga to play at left back, for Tchouaméni to play at center back, for Valverde to play at winger, that shows preparation and elitism. Only a club like Real Madrid can do the prepping to have players doing this. And then Ancelotti as coach. Big respect towards Ancelotti, because I don't know if Jude Bellingham I don't know if anyone could put Jude Bellingham playing like he did at the start with Real Madrid if it wasn't for Ancelotti. Maybe Guardiola would be elite with Jude Bellingham, obviously, but Ancelotti is showing once again that he's one of the greatest managers ever in the history of football with how good he's coaching Jude Bellingham, in my view. Unreal.
And we are a little bit ago, I was holding up 3 fingers because we are less than 3 weeks away from the Clasico.
Oh, 28th of October.
And the first, you betcha. And the Clasico will be played en Montjuic. It won't be played at Spotify Camp Nou because that is under construction. But you better believe that Barcelona and Real Madrid are going to bring it that day. We're going to get some answers that day. And I think that's on the same day that Arsenal plays Chelsea. So, we've got some dates circled. I'm loving this. Or maybe, wait, no, maybe not. I think it's Manchester City. Man City plays on the 28th.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
So, and there's, I think, even a Serie A game too that I think on the 28th of October, everybody's going to be watching football. No doubts in my mind. And Vinicius Jr., I just want to give a special shout out. He might be getting an extension with Real Madrid. So, in the next year, we'll have Jude Bellingham. Real Madrid in the next year, they'll have Vinicius Junior with an extension now. Jude Bellingham, Rodrigo, Hendrik, Arda Güler, Tchouaméni, Camavinga, Valverde, Eder Militão. Like, the extensive list of talent is unreal, and only a Florentino Perez can make such a well-organized team like this with the amount of money spent. There was like, less than 200 million to get all these players referred. But I'm saying great recruitment, great this, great that. A lot of people were hating on AC Milan for selling Tonali, but no more. You cannot hate AC Milan because they are the leaders of Serie A right now. And they're the leaders with who having a big influence in an assist and a goal, Bretson. What happened there?
Oh, Christian Pulisic. Listen, it's amazing what happens when a player gets healthy. When a player has played in or around the position that he has grown up playing or has had the most effect playing, and when there is very clearly a manager that wants him to be the focal point of the attack. And that doesn't mean there's not a whole lot of improvement that needs to happen with Pulisic, right? It doesn't mean that at all, because he needs to start having that exact same impact in the Champions League with the group stage games, because they've managed this many goals in two Champions League matches. But listen, 4 goals, 1 assist, and 7 starts, and he scored some pretty nice bangers, and he's had some pretty good goals. I am just highly optimistic about a guy playing in a setup where he's just very clearly wanted.
Once again, last season, 100% Pulisic. Last season, 100% Pulisic was not one of the best U.S. men's national team players playing at Chelsea. Right now, at AC Milan, he's the best.
No, actually, last season when he was healthy playing for the U.S. men's national team, he was able to show people what he could do. He was the best player last season, and he's the best player this season in terms of American national. Now, in terms of an American,
given moments for Dortmund last season,
given moments, he's had his moments, but obviously he just got back onto the pitch. He just played his first minutes of the season relatively recently, and he was just called back into camp. So we will see. But no, Christian Pulisic, I think, has been very consistent for the U.S. team. It's obviously it was him coming in, banged up from Chelsea or wanting to prove himself. It almost gave him a chip on the shoulder type of thing, because he had baller performances against Mexico last season. Okay, so I think I'm not going to say escaping Chelsea, but realizing he was not wanted at Chelsea, and instead of, bunkering down like some people do, like, Harry Maguire, and saying, I'm not going to leave here, I'm going to fight for my spot, he realized, I got to get the heck out of here. And he was very lucky that Stefano Pioli, the AC Milan setup, they all wanted him. They all wanted him. And he was able to see that, and he is a part of. If Tonali doesn't get sold, I don't know if that gets done. Maybe he still gets done, but you're not bringing in you're not bringing in Pulisic, you're not bringing in Reinders, you're not bringing in Okafor, you're not bringing in all of these players, Musa, that have already had great influences, and they need it to continue. But yes, they are top, but that wasn't even the craziest thing in the game, was that 87th minute Pulisic goal that a lot of people might have wanted to tell you was a handball. For those of you that have not watched it, and I had a buddy of mine that texted me, he goes, if you haven't watched the game yet, you have to just go watch the last 10 minutes. Don't look at anything and go watch the last 10 minutes, 87th minute onward. And it is the most bonker last 10 minutes of a game that I have seen in a very, very long time. First, you had Mike Maignan kickboxing, essentially, destroying Caleb Ekuban from Genoa, and getting a straight red card. He gets sent off. They had done all of their subs. So who did they have to put in net, Alex? Olivier Giroud. Got to replace a Frenchman with a Frenchman, I guess. And when it comes down to it, Olivier Giroud was actually called upon to make a save. Now, I'm not sure how much he knew about it, because he just closed his eyes and hoped, but he got a piece of that ball and he saved that win. So here's what it's going to come down to. Milan still has a lot of work to do, right? But at the same time, if you're getting wins like that, those kind of like maybe a little bit lucky, the fortune favors the bold, that type of situation. That's always a pretty damn good sign. And come on, Olivier Giroud. Even he said, listen, I've been in football a long time and I've never been a part of a game that was like that.
I actually watched those 10 minutes and it was pretty bonkers. Like Giroud,
it was crazy.
He comes off the goal with confidence and he does give a punch on it and he doesn't know where the ball's going and then he grabs because of a deflection.
Yeah.
So yes, I agree with Breton. Please go watch the tape of AC Milan against Genova at the end with the 87th minute goal of Christian Pulisic. And Olivier Giroud this season, he's played a goalkeeper, and for AC Milan in Serie A, he's got 4 goals scored and 3 assists. Olivier Giroud is one of the most underrated players in his generation, and he's the all-time goal scorer of France too. In the meantime, just in the meantime. And big shout out to Griezmann that had a big win against Real Sociedad, 2-1. And Griezmann is already at 4 goals scored in La Liga. Once again, I fully expect Griezmann to be one of the top goal scorers of La Liga and one of the best players of La Liga. Antoine Griezmann.
Well, I got to get back to Serie A just for 1 second because my heart was full as somebody that has watched American soccer for many years, seeing not only was Yunus Musa and Christian Pulisic instrumental in that Milan win, but on top of that, I got to see Weston McKennie and Timothy Weah starting for Juve. And I think that might be one of the next big ones coming up. I think it's Juve versus AC Milan. And I'm pretty certain that, unfortunately, they'll be missing Magnan in that game. AC Milan will. And on top of that, I think they're going to be missing Teo because he got a yellow card. So they're going to need to summon something to win. And also, before we leave Serie A, somebody has to say it. I got to shout out Romelu Lukaku. Gotta be. I mean,
6
because
goals in 7 games.
He's got, I think it's 7 goals in his last 7 matches. He's got 9 goals in his last 8 games for club and country, if you count that great last Euro qualifier for Belgium too. So, listen, he's out of the gates fast, and Jose Mourinho believes in him. And it's nice to see. And even though Roma had a terrible start to the Serie A, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of cannibalization as this season gets into the thick of it, and these teams start playing each other hot and fast. So I love it. Once again, Serie A is going to be one of the more electric title races. That's for sure. But as of right now, AC Milan's on top.
And going with what you said, it is going to be a great title race because AC Milan's top right now. They got 7 wins and only 1 loss. And that 1 loss was a 5-1 loss to Inter.
Yeah.
So the power ranking of the best team of Serie A is still a question because Inter can be there. AC Milan can be there. And look, I don't like Allegri with Juve, but they have players that can make them be there in that discussion. But going with what you said about Lukaku is one of the most hated players in football, and Jose Mourinho is one of the most hated managers and beloved too in football. Okay, so it's a great partnership in my view, and Lukaku's playing 90 minutes once again, full 90 minutes like he did against Cagliari. 2 shots on target, 2 goals scored. So Lukaku's gaining confidence, and he's already got 5 goals scored in Serie A. So keep on going, Lukaku. Not Sanch. Roma could be an interesting team because they started badly, but you're not going to sack Jose Mourinho if he's getting you to European finals. And if you're still in Europa League. So I still think that things can come back. And by the end of October, beginning of November, things will be different, I think, for Roma. But let us know what are you thinking. And I see Osimhen. I saw that Morata is being considered by Napoli. I just want to give a shout out to Osimhen's contract is until 2025. So this is my bold prediction. He is for sure leaving until the summer of 2024. The Euros are going to be in the summer, and the Osimhen transfer will be in the summer too, in my view. So I think the best team for him to go could be Arsenal, because Arsenal, if they get a striker to compete against Haaland with Man City, that would be quite crazy. But Chelsea, Tottenham, Real Madrid, there are other teams that can make a move for Osimhen too. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that.
Well, then I'm going to have to, maybe I can do this segue pretty well, because if you're talking about Victor Osimhen potentially heading to the Premier League, Napoli's going to need a replacement. And there are two guys in the Bundesliga right now. This is the segue. I'm setting it up. We're heading off to Germany. There are two guys in the Bundesliga right now that cannot stop scoring. And one plays for a team that was fighting for relegation last season, Stuttgart. His name is Serhou Guirassy. He has 13 goals in 7 games, which I'm not even sure that that's been done before, even with Robert Lewandowski and Erling Haaland going blow for blow in the Golden Boot race in the Bundesliga. And then there's also, one of the best signings all time of this season. I shouldn't say all time. I should say of this summer transfer window, and that would be Victor Boniface at Bayer Leverkusen, who are playing shabby ball to the nth degree. And we'll talk about them each individually. Which one do you want to talk about first? Well, the surprise of Guirassy or shabby ball?
Well, Guirassy is top. Like, Guirassy put Stuttgart top of the table before the Leverkusen win.
Crazy.
So I think Guirassy deserves that shout. Guirassy scores a hat-trick in 15 minutes. And right now, he's got 13 goals scored in 7 matches and 1 assist too. Pay attention to this player, because this is historic. And a lot of people were judging Stuttgart for getting Guirassy. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
And you ready for this? Remember how we tied Sacha Boey back to Stade Rennais?
Mm-hmm.
Serhou Guirassy was also Stade Rennais. And he did not get his chances there. And guess who bought him for $9 million? $9 million was Stuttgart. And Stuttgart needed him last season to stay in the Bundesliga. And already he's got repaid them. He scored a bunch of goals for them last season too, but he's got 13 goals in the 7 games, but they've also won 6 of their 7 this season. And this was a team, again, that was relegation battlers last season. So it is, I mean, he's going to make Stuttgart so much money, it's not even funny, right? $9 million is probably going to be turned into, if he can continue, even wind up scoring just 20 goals, say he fades throughout the rest of the season and he only scores 20 goals, he could probably still get offloaded for 40 to 50 million, which breaks the club's departure record. He becomes the most expensive departure for Stuttgart since I think it was Benjamin Pavard was 35 million. So it is bonkers to me that this man is not being talked about more. And if you watch his goals, he has a wonderful assortment of goals. It's very Osimhen-like. Very Osimhen-like. He's fast. He's strong. He's not as technical, but he has a ridiculous shot that he'll fire from anywhere. 25 yards out, 15 yards out, point blank range. Guirassy could be seen by the end of the season as a potential Osimhen replacement, or anyone else out there that doesn't want to spend $100 million on a striker. You might want to look his direction. Okay.
How much was Colomani to PSG?
Oh my gosh, 100? No. Was it that much?
I think it 80? Was like 80. So
80.
Guirassy is working towards at least being in the conversation of above 70 million with these numbers.
Bonkers.
It's absolutely bonkers. And you mentioned Boniface. Boniface right now has 7 goals, 2 assists. And yes, I fully believe he's one of the best signings this summer. Xabi Alonso ball is magnificent. Xabi Alonso and Bayer Leverkusen are top of the Bundesliga. They're currently unbeaten. They have 37 goals scored. They have only 7 conceded. Wirtz is playing very good football. Hoffman is playing good football. Kosunu, Tapsoba, so many new references at this club. And when Xabi Alonso started, they were 16th in the Bundesliga. Currently, they're top of the Bundesliga. They faced a team like Bayern Munich and they didn't lose. And now, a team like Mainz that could be hard, they still win easily. And I'll say this confidently. Alejandro Grimaldo and Jeremy Frimpong are one of the best fullback duos in the world right now. Both have 2 goals and 3 assists. Frimpong would start for a team like Man United. And Grimaldo not being selected for Spain is embarrassing, even though I think they should start. But Grimaldo, what else does he need to do? When there's a free kick, it's Grimaldo scoring the free kick. Not just doing it, he scores them if it's close to the goal. It's like a penalty, literally. So start paying attention more and more to Leverkusen and Florian Wirtz. Jamal Musiala.
No Grimaldo. no Grimaldo and no Porro for
Nope.
Spain against Scotland. That's interesting.
It's
That is
true.
interesting, and
And
we'll see. We'll see if it works out. But I just before we move on from Leverkusen, I just have to say
yeah.
you mentioned his name in there. And if we could actually rewind, if you go back to who I think the most underrated transfers are of the season, previous to this, or who I thought there were going to be, one of mine is already coming to fruition, and that is Hoffman. Okay, Hoffman he's 31 years old, but he's like a Swiss Army knife for shabby ball. Okay, and this is a shabby ball that almost averages 4 goals a game this season. Shabby ball that almost averages 4 goals a game, and this Hoffman character, he's got 6 goals, 4 assists in 8 starts for Leverkusen, and he has been involved in pretty much every game. 9 wins, 1 draw in 10 games. So the only draw that they had, Alex, was a draw at the Allianz against Bayern Munich. That's it. That's it. So I mean, Hoffman is so central to this that I don't think he's never gonna get the amount of credit that Boniface will get. He's never gonna get the amount of credit that Florian Wirtz should get. But if it's not for Hoffman and if it's not for Ezequiel Palacios, shabby ball would not work, in my opinion. So shout out to them. And I think I actually agree with you. I'm not even going to fight you on that, the fullback scenario. Frimpong and Grimaldo, they're definitely the most entertaining fullback duo on the planet right now. So I'll start with that.
Entertaining, I'll go with Balde and Sil. Entertaining.
True.
But I get you. I get you. That is unexpected for many people. Seeing like this weekend, we saw on Sunday that Grimaldo had an assist to Frimpong in towards like a play that you'd expect a winger to be in that position. So it's pretty mad to see that happen. But yes.
Yeah.
This is a big topic because, yes, the people at home know that we talk a lot about Messi. And what happened? Messi officially has failed to go to the playoffs. Inter Miami haven't gotten to the playoffs. Without Messi, Inter Miami have 7 games, only 1 win. So they're highly reliant on Lionel Messi. And we won't be seeing Lionel Messi play football until February. February. But we could see a loan deal. We could see a loan deal, Breton, because in 2012, Thierry went to Arsenal for 2 months because he could have those 2 months to play for Arsenal and make something happen. Can we make something happen at Barca?
Well, listen, David Beckham once did it, and he also tore his ACL or his Achilles. So I'm gonna not that Lionel Messi it listens to me. But I really, really hope that a loan move does not happen.
No!
I really, really do. Now, that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be some sort of a sending off, some sort of a commemoration, some sort of a milestone match between Barcelona and Inter Miami that, you just get that final closure, right, for Barcelona fans. I really don't think he should return because I do believe this was not Lionel Messi's fault. The fact that he is injured is not necessarily Lionel Messi's fault. The fact that Inter Miami was already in a relatively insurmountable hole to begin with was not Lionel Messi's fault, nor is it Tata Martino's, right? But you made a very good point, is that they relied too much on him, and I don't think it'll be that way. If Lionel Messi is healthy at the beginning of next season, which is generally end of February, heading into a Copa America that's going to be historic, it's going to be held in the U.S., it's going to be pretty amazing to watch, and I'm sure it's going to be one he wants to win as well. But this Inter Miami team will be better built to not rely as much on Lionel Messi, hopefully for his sake, moving forward, to not rely on Sergio Busquets turning back time and, acting like he's 28 years old, which he was able to do for, 10 games before you started to see he was a little bit human, to have hopefully Jordi Alba for a whole entire season. So they need to build this roster better to accommodate that. And I just think that if you send him on loan to Barcelona, which I agree is a potential reality, you run the risk. You just run the risk of hurting the man.
But it's
hurting
beautiful.
The man.
But it's beautiful. If Lionel Messi comes back to Barcelona on loan, it will be beautiful. It will be the sending off and the homecoming of a legend. And I think he would be seen and respectively seen as one of the best players in the world too right now. And I think I would give a lot of value to the MLS saying, we're giving you on loan one of the best players in the world still. That's what we have.
And then you get an injured player for the majority of it happened. It happened with Beckham, and he wasn't even sent on loan to United. He was sent on loan to, what was it, Milan, I believe.
He was at PSG.
Yeah, and then PSG.
But that documentary, I fully recommend people go watch the David Beckham documentary on Netflix. Is
good stuff.
Quite good moments are being shared, especially with Victoria Beckham, like the 75,000. Do you know what I'm talking about? The
I know what you're talking about. It's definitely worth a watch.
But definitely in terms of mental health, it's very strongly guided to say and to show people that like mental health is very important in football. And a player like David Beckham, he could have been one of the top of the mountain, but you can be anywhere and you can suffer from mental health. So them showing that is great because it spreads awareness. And it
does.
It
does. Well, good stuff. And this is for a guy that if you watch, the first thing you realize and the first thing he actually says about himself in the documentary is he's like, I don't have a lot of friends. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. My friend was essentially a football. And even his parents were like, all he wanted to do was go back and work. And he was which probably contributes to it, because when you have lows elsewhere, they feel like really, really, really low lows, right? It was just amazing to kind of see that side from him. And I don't think David Beckham ever scored a bad goal. I mean, every goal they show in this flipping documentary, I get that they can pick and choose, but every goal that they scored is something that I couldn't even dream about doing once. There's no tap-ins with David Beckham. But anyway,
of the form he has a great form, and the way he kicks the ball,
beautiful.
It is quite exquisite and it's quite unique, and that's what makes David Beckham and bended like David Beckham something so unique and special. It's bended Messi, but bended like Beckham does exist too.
Yeah, well, I hope Beckham is in the ear of Lionel Messi saying, I know that you might want to go on loan and continue playing, but please don't. Please don't. But, Beckham, if it was any other owner than Beckham, they'd probably be like, hey, give us $10 million and you can go do it. But when it comes down to it, I think he absolutely deserves what he is bare minimum going to get, which is closure for Barcelona fans, having a sending off, a massive, hopefully they pack a stadium. And this is the sucky thing. Spotify Camp Nou is not even an option for this. So it's like, where do you have this that's big enough? Because you don't want to have it on Montjuic. You don't want to have it, I don't know. I mean, you don't want to have it. You certainly don't want to have it in Madrid. So where do you have it for Lionel Messi? And it could wind up being in Miami, which it's not the same. So wait, patience, get it done.
But with Messi out of the playoffs, who's favorites though? Who is the favorite to win the MLS playoffs right now?
Yeah, so there's something called the Supporter Shield, which everybody else knows as the winner. It's the top record at the end of regular season. Because we're Americans, we love playoffs. Let's continue the season, right? But FC Cincinnati has got to be one. They've been the best by far all season. And what makes them more special is that they were only a couple seasons ago the worst in the league. So they have gone from the worst to the first. And they now have to do it. They've won the Supporter Shield, which is the best record in the whole regular season. Nobody can catch them. And now they will head into the playoffs as the number one seed. I think they are the best team out there. And they're possibly one of the best coached as well. They've got Brandon Vazquez and Aaron Bupenza, and they've got Luciano Acosta in midfield, another Argentine player that is just really fun because he's also a small dude and just whatever. He tears defenses apart. So I'm going to say FC Cincinnati, although there are always, as we see in a lot of American sports, there are always teams that run everybody, through the ringer throughout the whole regular season, and then they fade in the playoffs. And it's always the hottest team out there heading into the playoffs. And I'm going to throw one out there. I'm going to say Hector Herrera and Houston Dynamo have all the momentum in the world, and I think they need to people need to watch out for the Houston Dynamo because they are very good. And Hector Herrera, if Lionel Messi was not in this particular season, Hector Herrera would be seen as one of the best players in Major League Soccer, if not the best player in Major League Soccer. And again, it pains me to say this about a Mexican player, but he has been nothing but amazing since joining Houston. So there it is. Cincinnati first, Houston second is what I'm going with.
Ooh, so let us know down below your choices, okay? Who is the favorite to win the MLS in your point of view? Comment down below, and don't forget to like this video. But yes, FC Wonderkid, we got to shout out here some players at the end. And I want to give a special shout out to, if you don't know about Antonio Silva, we talk a lot about him. And against Studio Benfica needed a hero, and Antonio Silva was that hero. He had a last-minute save defending-wise in his own half, and then he went to the opposition and he scored a goal in the 93rd minute that gives Benfica the key win. So shout out to Antonio Silva and to João Neves that got selected for Portugal this week too.
Huge.
Great to see both getting the chance to shine for Portugal. Phenomenal.
Love it.
19.
Love it.
Mate,
Well, yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I'm gonna shout out a player that technically age-wise, he's not a wonder kid. Okay. But based on the fact that coming into the season, he only has played like 100 minutes for Anderlecht. I think Theo Leone, 23 years old. Anderlecht is currently top of the table. They've had a bad few seasons. In fact, they haven't really regained the form that they once had with Tielemans, Verscharen, and some other players who I'm forgetting right now. But they have a really nice core, and that's because of the emergence of this 23-year-old Theo Leone. Because we're looking like he's easily the best, most important, and most influential player for Anderlecht heading into the season. He's first in the league with assists. He's also first in the league with tackles won. Ooh. You don't generally see that those two things work in conjunction with each other. And this is all from a guy that has only started 10 games in the Pro League. So if his ascendancy continues the way it has, I think you're going to see him as somebody maybe the Bundesliga is looking at or whatever at the end of the season. And if he can also have Anderlecht winning the Pro League at the end of the season, bringing them back to the precipice, that would be absolutely huge. But he's definitely one you got to watch based on how influential he's been throughout the first 9 games of the season with 5 assists and a goal. So Theo Leone's mine.
Good shout out, mate, because Anderlecht, they're having a great start. They have Dolber back. They have Vertonghen captain, and they got De Bast. That is one of the best young center backs in the world. So
he's the Bast. Sorry, terrible.
Hey, that's the first time I heard that one, mate. No, I'll give you a thumbs up on definitely Fertile Mind. That was that was a really good joke in my end. I think that was good, Brenton. I think that was a good joke. But I wanted just to say Santiago Jimenez too. Santiago Eredivisie, just like the Belgian league, is definitely very interesting to watch. And Santiago Jimenez in his last 8 games in Eredivisie, he's got 12 goals scored and 2 assists. One of the most valuable players in Eredivisie. Kokshu has left to Benfica this summer. Santiago Jimenez will be leaving to a top European team that needs a striker. I'd say maybe Chelsea, maybe Real Madrid. I don't know, but Santiago Jimenez shows a lot of promise. A lot of promise.
Yeah, I mean, Spurs could come back for him too, but 12 goals. 12 goals in 8 league games, and I guarantee you he is chomping at the bit to get into this Champions League action in the future because he was suspended for the first 2 matches. But more crazily, you brought up the Eredivisie, and it's absolutely insane to me, this particular season. And we're talking about a lot of close races because we're like 8, 9, 10 games into the season, sure. But the Eredivisie is shaping up to be like one for the ages. You've got, let me start with the worst. You've got Ajax in the relegation zone, Alex. And then you have Feyenoord, who is unbeaten in 8. There's 6 wins, 2 draws, but they're in like 3rd place, and they've got 28 goals scored because you have PSV starting out with 8 wins in 8, with Luke de Jong turning back the years, with Malik Tillman, another U.S. guy, doing really, really well. Just 2 goals have been conceded for PSV Eindhoven. And then you have AZ Alkmaar and you have FC Twente. that I think there might be one loss between the two of them. And Azad Alkmaar has a Greek striker that already has, I think, 10 goals or something or in 7 games. Yeah, Pavlidis, exactly. What did I say? Yeah, Pavlidis. I said Greek striker. But yeah, he's only 24 years old, and if nobody's looking at him by the end of the season, I'd be absolutely shocked. So if you're not watching the Eredivisie, you're seeing a lot of young guys being mixed in with some old heads that are doing really, really well. And there are some absolute studs. Yeah. But the biggest one I want to go back to Santi Jimenez's team, to go back to Feyenoord, he's 22 as well. You got to give a shout out to Jurriën Timber's brother. This is Quinten Timber. He has basically replaced Orkun Koksu, not entirely, but Quinten Timber, his star is not inexplicably, is definitely rising at this moment in time. And he has become kind of that focal point of a Feyenoord midfield that is just as formidable as when Koksu left. So I'm really, really excited watching the Eredivisie this season. And that's not just because there's a bunch of Americans littered in there. That's just because, like, dude, Ajax in the relegation zone? This is crazy.
It's true. It's true. And Feyenoord have Quinten Timber, Santiago Jimenez, Calvin Stanks too is balling out. Yep. I was quite surprised with that one. And I gotta say, the biggest redemption arc this season is Noah Lang. Noah Lang against Sevilla was unreal in terms of dribbling. And in the league, he's got 4 goals scored and 1 assist. One of the best players at PSV, and he needed that. He needed that confidence. And I fully believe that if Noah Lang is confident and with the right mindset, this is one of the best dribbling wingers in the world. We're talking Doku levels. Great. Doku levels in my view. Noah Lang. But you said it, mate. It's just interesting with the old heads. The old heads of the Eredivisie, like you said. With Ricky van Wolfswinkel, the top goal scorer next to Sam Stein, the son of Maurice Stein, the man who will be sacked, I think, from the Ajax head coach position. But Ricky van Wolfswinkel with 4 goals scored and Luke de Jong with 7. It's just like, it's so interesting, mate, to have them like in the top goal scorers talk. But the two top, you said Santiago Jimenez, 12 goals scored in the Eredivisie, and Vangelis Pavlidis with 10 goals scored. I am absolutely sure this is not a bold take, it's a guarantee. Both won't be in Eredivisie next season. Only if they have an injury, I'll say that they'll stay. But both are for sure leaving because they give guarantee goals. Guarantee goals. Yeah, and both play for national teams that they're the stars. One the Mexican and one the Greek national team. So another point. Another point for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I remember saying at the beginning of the season with you, Alex, you were like, hey, what do you think of the Ricardo Pepi move to PSV? I'm like, I love it because, Luke de Jong is getting older. And there's no way, he can recreate, what he has done in the Eredivisie in the past. And boy, was I wrong. I mean, 7 goals, 5 assists in 8 straight league wins. I'm glad Pepe's been given some, junk time and has been able to score some goals. But my goodness, if Luke de Jong keeps playing like this, I'm going to mistake him for a wonderkid.
And Halilovic too, in Eredivisie, playing very well for Fortuna Sittard. Even Halilovic. Like,
that's great.
Halilovic, but Quinten Timber, that is a great bold shout too. And Bakayoko, never forget Bakayoko. My last mention is Roger Fernandes, okay? I mentioned Antonio Silva. Roger Fernandes, a 17-year-old for Braga, had 2 assists in stoppage time for Braga. Crucial, and if you see the assists, the timing, the quality, you can't do that easily at 17. So please pay attention to Roger Fernandes of Braga, a wonderkid that is balling out in the Portuguese league. We'll see him more this season. A lot more, in my view. Savior.
Like it. Well, it's I've got 2 more, and I'll be quick with them. But one we've talked about before. Arthur Vermeeren. I don't know what more. Exactly. I don't know what more we have to say about him, but for some reason this week he turned into like this little playmaker that we've got to watch out for. Because come on, at 18 years old, he had 2 assists in, yes, a tough Champions League loss, but 2 assists in the Champions League for an 18-year-old. midfielder for Royal Antwerp. And he's become this calm, composed conductor. At the same time, he's a somebody that just mucks up the passing lanes and just makes sure that Royal Antwerp is not, easily beaten. He is not overrated, for those of you that want to just instinctively say that, because I'm going to say something that might be weird. But I honestly do see shades, very little, very, starting growing shades of kind of like a Jude Bellingham type of effect, a little more defensive in nature, moving forward. Just the way he composes himself and the way he glides and he commands a midfield. And he's already won a league. He's won Royal Antwerp, only won the league, I think, because Arthur Vermeeren's emergence last season, and he is starting to take another step up. He's faring very well in the Champions League, even if they aren't winning. And, I just think it's going to continue here. So Arthur Vermeeren is going to be fought over at the end of the season, and even more so because he's only 18.
And he's the first player since Kevin De Bruyne to score 2 assists in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Arthur Vermeeren at 18.
Sheesh.
And this weekend he had a goal and an assist too, going with the 2 assists he had at midweek. So this is mad for a player so young at 18 years old. The future of Belgium. Doku, Arthur Vermeeren, the best. Is starting to look a bit better than a couple of 2 years back.
Yeah. Well, my last one here, I got to match your 17-year-old Roger Fernandez with a 17-year-old from the Breton region, which is my first name, if people don't know, of France, Lorient. We all know Lorient from Enzo Lefebvre. We remember them for Dango Ouattara, who has yet to really get running at Bournemouth, for Tara Maffi, who's now at Nice, and scored, I believe, against PSG a little while back, right? But now you've got to watch out for this 17-year-old. His name is Elie Krupi. Elie Jr., I think is what he goes by, but he's born in 2006. He's made in Lorient, and he's already got 3 goals, 2 assists in just 4 starts this season. Small sample size, but that is quite a nice return for a small sample size. But you're going to hear more about him, especially if you look at the Ligue 1 results from this weekend, because he had a brace versus Lyon. Okay? He had a brace versus Lyon, and this is a Lyon. Remember, I just mentioned Ajax is in the relegation zone. Lyon is still, after 8 games, without a win in Ligue 1. Hey. And there are weird things happening. They just hired Fabio Grosso, who used to play for them. I think it's a good signing, but over time, it's going to take time. A lot of guys are not playing at full speed, I think, for them just yet. And they made some very, very questionable signings. So I'm really, really interested to see if and when Lyon picks up. But back to Elie Krupi, that's somebody you're going to want to watch because he likely is going to be the next Lorient player out the door, and we'll see where he winds up going. But 17 years old, dude. And 2 goals against Lyon.
And Enzo Lefebvre, if people don't know too, like one of the best signings this summer in my view. For 25 million that it was, Stade Rennes got a complete bargain. But let us know down below your thoughts about episode 126. What topics did we miss out? And react towards Messi not playing the playoffs. React towards the Premier League talk. The AC Milan, rejuvenated AC Milan without Tonali. We want to see your thoughts. And don't forget to like episode 126. Let's aim for more than 100 likes, people. Come on. Go bold and smash that like button. Thank you for listening to episode 126 until now, and thank you for going bold.